Meet Kevin is a YouTuber. Who is running for governor of California. And he's running against Gavin Newsom, who was recalled, or at least there was the initial, I don't know what technically the term is, but there was an initial vote to say, will there be a recall election? And the answer was yes. And now the different candidates can run against him in the middle of his term, essentially. And so Meet Kevin, who is a YouTuber, who is kind of a finance guy and an investment guy, is running for governor of California. And you've been a follower, a disciple.
I've been a follower since, like, yeah, I'm a disciple of Meet Kevin. I've been following him since he had like 20,000 subscribers. Now he has like 1.45 million.
Yeah.
He's a smart guy, seems like an ethical guy, but at the end of the day, I don't know him. I'd like to walk through some points and just say,
sure,
see what you think.
Well, the first thing that I saw, I watched him giving a speech, I think in Venice on camera, and this is I'm not a big fan of Gavin Newsom, but my sense was he said the phrase like no state taxes, and the response from the audience was silence. To which I just remembered and I'm not saying that he's not a friendly guy or a nice guy to hang out with, but there is a political charisma that I think one needs, especially when you don't have the backing of an entire party and all that kind of stuff.
It's an argument for Trump, right?
If you want to Donald Trump it, you need to be able to take any crowd of any size and get them
to rally,
riled up. And I didn't see that in that one clip. Not saying that he couldn't learn it or do it, but with that missing piece, he takes what is already a long shot into an impossibility, in my opinion. And not to say that it wouldn't be good, but there's the ability to foment excitement is the first piece of politics. And he had such a winning.
That's the first piece? You don't think having a plan and setting up?
You think having a plan? I think it'd be nice if that were the world. You think you have to have a plan? I don't think you need a plan. I think that you need to be able to literally just what
popularity
I said, to drive excitement. Yeah. Right. And then if you have a plan, great. That'll make you that'll probably make you a good official. But winning an election is I do not think about having a clarity or even a plan at all. It's just about getting people to vote for you.
All right. Well, let's go through these points.
All right.
Pull it up, Justin. All right. Number one, like you said, no state income tax on the first $250,000 of income. No California tax return required. I won't go through all the little points, but yeah, what do you think about that?
I don't know. I like philosophically, I don't know how to practically implement this because there's a lot of, when it comes to taxes, there's a lot of weird ways that incentives can drive the opposite behavior from what you'd like. I think that wealthy people should pay more. There should be progressive income tax.
I agree.
I think that wealthy people should pay considerably more. It seems like a wealth tax might be the cleanest way to get there.
Can you explain that?
Wealthy people don't always make straight income. There's different kinds of income they have. They can defer their income. They can take loans out because they own a company that's worth billions of dollars and technically have no income, but just borrow against the company such that they are never taxed on their income. They can continually invest in new real estate things like Donald Trump did. So I don't know that income tax is the best. I've heard that Europe's VAT, value-added tax, is a good way to get, to handle the corporate tax, because as you add value to a product, that's when you're taxed. But yeah, so I don't know. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's not a good thing. But generally speaking, I'm for wealthy people spending more of their money. I do think that California has gotten to an obscene level of taxes, though.
Yeah, that's the cut and dry, right? Like, you raise the taxes more and more, people are just going to leave. And we've been seeing that, right?
Well, this is, so I think I'm a fairly wealthy California resident. I live in Santa Monica. The on-the-ground feel is that, and this can be like a boo-hoo feeling, but it is, I think shared, is that California hates you is kind of how it feels. like the government, that the government doesn't like you is the feeling that you get if you make a lot of money. And I'm in the bottom of, I would say, the 1% of California, right? Because I have the YouTube channel, we generate money, but it's that they see you kind of as the problem is part of it. And additionally, what has been interesting is I think there's an increasing distrust in the California government to actually use that money effectively. When I lived here 3-4 years ago, it was a cleaner, nicer place to live in. The taxes were the same, and we've watched services fall apart.
I remember, man. I remember when I first started coming here 3 years ago, I used to go walk down a couple of blocks down into Box and Burn, and there was like maybe one homeless person. I wouldn't even notice him. And now over the years, it's like, it's a city of homeless people everywhere. And that's leads into the second point.
Well, just to finish that thought,
sure.
I don't have any sense that more taxes to California makes social problems any better.
The issue is the management
seems like
of money.
Seems like a bottomless pit of problems that they don't solve by taking more of your money. And in fact, that they're administratively seems to be doing things worse. So I have I like the idea of government spending a ton of my money to like solve homelessness. And I don't mean pay for homes. I mean like figure out the root causes of it and address them at the root causes. I really like that as an idea. I would spend even more of the my effective tax rate if there was an actual solution that worked. I would go even higher than I'm spending, but I don't have faith in them to do that.
Why is that not a thing? Why can't we know where the tax money is going?
I mean, why is it not a thing? I'm sure that's a very complicated question that I don't know the answer to. I suppose there's practical reasons why it's very hard to track money, but also they don't want you to see necessarily where your money is going.
Conspiracy.
I mean, I worked in the government. I worked at a private consulting firm, and dude, government is necessary. And I watched how easy and wasteful it is at the same time. The firm that I worked at would always make their biggest contracts at the end of the fiscal year because what the government agencies know is that if you don't spend the money, they're going to cut your budget. So they would give us projects that were not necessary, where essentially we'd spend then months doing reports on how they could save money that they would not implement because they weren't interested in the first place. There was a lot of posturing for their boss so that they could get an improvement. And that's the problem with government, is that their incentives are not aligned to be productive. Their incentives are aligned to, they don't need productivity in order to continue to get revenues from their citizenry, right? They don't need to actually be more productive. They just need to raise taxes. And individual departments,
print tons of money.
They don't need to actually effectively do a service. They just need to convince the people who allocate budgets that they should get a raise. So, yeah, that problem, I saw it firsthand. It was frustrating. It was one of the reasons that I left. I was like, I'm working hard on these things that they don't care about. They don't care. They're not even doing it. They're not even trying. It was boring stuff, but we would find, for instance, that they were buying all of their toilet paper. They weren't bundling it, right? They were like buying it in one-off. So we're like, okay, if you guys bundle this stuff and you buy it, you can get this expected discount and this thing. They're just like, yeah, fuck it. We don't want to. The servicemen don't like that. Fine. You know what I mean? Like they want to be able to go in with their government issued card and purchase it one-offs. But we told you this is what we were going to do. We told you that we were going to find ways that which items you could take together, bundle them.
So what was your department exactly? What were you doing? Just cutting?
No. What we were doing was a lot of cost saving stuff, a lot of Excel. And so I would just get these massive documents of everything that the government bought, every product that they bought, every price that they paid. And so I could still be missing elements of it, like, oh, this one we had to pay more for because it was on short notice or whatever. But there were still things that we found in there, like, hey, when you purchase from this particular vendor, it costs more money. And we'd ask, do they do anything different? No, but this guy's got a relationship with them. So, you know what I mean? And it was just like, okay, well, you're spending, it's not huge, but you're spending 5% more and you're purchasing millions of dollars of it. Like you could pay for everything that you spent on us just by not using that particular distributor. And for whatever internal reasons, they didn't care often. Now, that's not to say always. Sometimes they would, but far more often than I was comfortable with, shit moves slow or not at all. And so it was frustrating.
Damn. All right. Well, that's why you're an Excel wizard. All right. Number 2, homeless emergency. We've spoken about this before.
Homeless emergency.
Housing for all homeless within 60 days via emergency powers. I don't know what that means. Medical and substance, mental health, and educational support immediately available. 3 meals per day and centralized support for all homeless immediately. No one lives on the streets in our state anymore within 60 days. Do you think that's possible?
I don't know. What I would like to see is just split testing. Like I think short-term split tests are excellent ideas, and they should treat neighborhoods in certain ways and just find out which, like, if providing them all with housing, 3 square meals, educational services, and mental health, drug rehabilitation services is effective, then roll it out everywhere. But I also don't think like the idea that he's going to come in, no offense, Kevin, with no experience to my knowledge in mental health services or homeless, and he's going to solve a problem that is proven intractable in 2 months is ludicrous.
Yeah.
And I understand he has to say that. I don't fault him. He's fine. He's politicking, but I suspect that's not how it's going to go were he elected.
Got it.
But I am totally for his attitude of like, we're going to solve this. We're going to figure this out. And I think the answer is a bunch of different tests to see what works, and also research into other cities as to what has worked or hasn't worked in the past.
Got it. This next point is my favorite point. It's to home. I think you're going to like it too. Future schools. At 14, students have a choice to attend a future school. Combines college, trade school, high school, and financial education. Students graduate debt-free, for free, at 18, ready for career placement, in partnership with small, medium, and large businesses throughout California. So essentially, it's right now, it's a massive business. This Jake Tran fellow is amazing. He did a great mini doc video on schools and business, how they're businesses, right? And how really the student is the product. And we're seeing it now. So many people, this is the age-old conversation. So many people are coming out with useless degrees. They don't, can't get a job. What Kevin's saying is like, hey, let's combine these people to actually have some practical knowledge in the real world, if they so choose, also with financial education, and then they can go out into the real world and actually do something, right? What do you think?
I think an interesting question, I guess, at the base of it is, what is the purpose of public education? Naval has said that it's 80% babysitting, which I think is an interesting insight. And then I guess, what is it? It's to be a good person and a good citizen? I don't know. But there were certainly things that we learned that in retrospect were waste of time. The way that we learned other things, like the way that we went through history, was so silly. Like, what was the date of this particular battle? Oh, that was in 1620. Like, who? Even at the time, even when Google really wasn't a thing, like why are we learning this was never discussed. And what was just thrown at you? Those who do not understand history are condemned to repeat it. But we weren't even trying to understand history. We were recalling dates and names. So I guess if I were to think about what education should be, I like that he is focused on the practical. I think that's good. I also think that there needs to be an element of education that is not as focused on the practical, which is the philosophical side, which has no immediate use and in fact can often breed counterculture things, right?
That's a good thing in a place like the United States. That's what we want. Mm-hmm. Some type of diversity of thought.
Yeah. But no, I'm generally speaking, I'm for investigating as I look back at the curriculum and the ways that we were taught, I see I don't want to send my kid into a public school. I'm not going to send him to private school. I would homeschool him if I ever had children.
You would homeschool?
100%.
Really?
Yeah.
That's surprising.
Would you not? What would you do?
Probably private school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I did them all. I did private, I did Catholic school, and then I did public school. Mm-hmm. And my best experience was in a private school. Way more one-on-one attention with the teacher. Teachers are a lot more, I guess, verified on how to teach.
They probably are paid more, so it's likely more competitive. And
yeah, I don't know about homeschooling. I've just never met a kid that was homeschooled.
You get some strange homeschool kids.
Yeah, I just don't want my kids to be weird. I think
I know my friend is homeschooled.
He's a weird guy?
He's my most successful friend.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think there's always
most
pros and cons.
successful traditionally.
Right. He's got a lot of cash in the bank.
He's got a lot of crypto.
Yeah. I'm not homeschooled. It's not me. There's pros and cons. I think homeschool, yeah, you get to think outside of the box. You get more attention. You get to learn more from your parents. Mm-hmm. But you don't get the necessary challenges of like being potentially bullied or seeing bullying.
I agree.
Something
so
or sports.
I think he says it's 80%. 80 Naval is something like 80% babysitting, 19% socialization, 1% education. And I do agree that having to mix with a group of cretins, you know what I mean? Just like these worst kids ever, that are not, their parents didn't pay for them to go somewhere nice. Like there's value in that. And not that, I grew up in the suburbs. It wasn't like super hard knock life, but just having to mix with a bunch of different kids is valuable. And I do, that is my one worry about homeschooling if I were to have kids, is that it would lead them socially stunted. But I think that there's solutions around that where you can get like a group of kids that are homeschooled. Yeah, and I think you also need to leave kids alone with other kids for periods of time to like
see what happens,
sort out the weird Lord of the Flies stuff that goes on when kids are left by themselves.
Builds character.
I think it's important. Well, you know, Gabor Mate, you know him?
No.
Gabor Mate is a trauma psychologist who is Tim Ferriss's a fan. He's had him on the podcast, all that kind of stuff. One of the things that he says is that one of the main problems in today's society is that we have outsourced parenting to the peer group. And that if, according to him, if you look back how kids were raised, like kids slept on their mother, between their mother and their father, like for hundreds of thousands of years.
Till what age?
I'm going back like 10,000 years.
Got it.
Like there's no public school. Like they're learning next to their mother and their father and their other tribe people. And obviously they spend time with kids, but the amount of adult time that we had was far higher. Now what we have is all the adults go off into these workplaces, no kids allowed. One adult stewards 30 children, and mostly the children raise themselves. And a lot of the traumas that people have today come from their time being surrounded by other kids. So I guess I don't know if if it builds character or if I just look at the flaws in the system as I had it, and I think that is how it ought to be. But like maybe kids should have fewer time just in the Lord of the Flies playground, and there should be more adult intervention and more adult influence. I don't know.
Well, I would argue with that guy that Tim Ferriss had on. Yeah, that I feel like more and more anecdotally, kids are being raised by the internet. And like
which is perhaps even worse.
Yeah, it depends who you go to, right?
And he does. I think he does. You wouldn't be arguing with him in this case. I think he does say that it's the screen and the other kids that are raising our youth these days.
Got it. Yeah, because like I was watching the JRE when I was 15, and just gobbling up all the information over there. I'm like, oh, these guys are awesome.
Yeah.
Right. And I didn't pay that much attention in school or to the teachers.
Yeah. Well. So what was the question with regards to me, Kevin? I forget. Oh, it was transforming education. I think it's good to experiment. I think a practical bent is good. There was a class that we had on personal finance that nobody took because they made it so unappealing to young kids. But in retrospect, that's one of the things that if I'd had any concept of what it meant to pay back $100,000 worth of student loans, I'd have made very different decisions. And I wish that everything turned out okay, but I would teach kids to be a little bit more concerned with debt, I think, and to have a tighter grasp of finances than I did when I was going through all that stuff.
Yeah. 100% agree. We don't have to go through the rest of the points.
Are there other ones that are interesting?
There's literally 18 others. So
we don't have to. Are there any others that you found interesting or no?
Oh, this is something because I've never experienced this in LA. No more blackouts. You guys get blackouts?
I haven't experienced it.
Have you experienced it, Justin?
Like power outs?
Yeah.
No.
Not at all. Because apparently, like Valuetainment did the same thing, and they were talking about it. And apparently, their studio gets a blackout like 3 times a week, and everything just gets shut down because so many people are pumping up the AC that they just have to shut down certain areas of the city.
Maybe they treat Santa Monica kindly. I don't know. Or maybe Santa Monica's on a different section of the grid because I know that technically we're not Los Angeles.
Oh, really?
Yeah, technically we're like Santa Monica County or something.
Oh. Well, just want to bring that up. that was surprising to me. I'm like, what? How is that even possible that in LA? How's it possible?
Hope that you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to see more like this and have us do more podcasts, we are 100% funded by our generous patrons. And if you'd like to contribute, there's a link in the description, and we'll have one pop up on the screen right here so that we can do more podcasts where we have fun conversations and hopefully some deep ones like this. Either way, hope that you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.